From Lagos, Nigeria, this is News Central. I'm Felicity Ezewige. The top stories tonight. Senate constitutes 18-man committee to oversee activities of Rivers Sole Administrator Ibokete Ibas. Delta State Governor Monday Oborewori meets President Tinubu for the first time since his defection to the ruling APC. U.S. President Donald Trump hosts Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney at the White House amid tariff tensions and annexation threats.
In business, Aviation Minister Festus Keyamo seeks strategic partnership with Brazilian manufacturers to enhance airline operations in Nigeria.
And in sports, Super Eagles legend and Canopilas star Ahmed Musa is set to return to the national team at the upcoming Unity Cup in the UK. Details in a moment.
Thank you for tuning in. Tonight begins now. The Senate has constituted an 18-member committee to oversee the activities of Ibokete Ibas, the sole administrator of Rivers State. Senate President Godswill Akpabio announced the development during Tuesday's plenary session. Akpabio said the move was aimed at strengthening transparency and accountability in the governance of Rivers State. He described the committee's mandate as critical to ensuring effective legislative oversight. He noted that the composition of the committee might be reviewed after further consultations. Senate leader Opeyemi Bamidele was named chairman of the committee, with Adamu Aliero, Osita Izunaso, Osita Ngu, Kaka Shehu, Aminu Abbas, Tokumbo Abiru, and Adeniyi Adebomire as members. Other members of the committee are Sani Musa, Simon Lalong, Asukwo Epeyong, Adams Oshomole, Iretika Ngibe, Onyekachi Nwebonyi, Idiat Adebule, Ede Dafinone, I beg your pardon, and Mohammed Nakudu, as well as the clerk of the Senate. President Bola Tinubu has met with the Delta State Governor, Sheriff Oborewori, at the presidential villa in Abuja. Tuesday's meeting is the governor's first encounter with the president since he defected to the governing party, the All Progressive Congress, from the People's Democratic Party. Oborewori, on April the 23rd, became the first incumbent governor of Delta State to dump the PDP since 1999. His predecessor, Ifeanyi Okowa, and his deputy governor, Monday Oyeme, alongside commissioners and local government chairmen, all decamped to the ruling APC in Asaba. In a related development, following the defection to the ruling All Progressive Congress APC by the Delta State Governor Monday Oborewori, his predecessor and other stakeholders in the state, Speaker of the State House of Assembly Emomotimi Guo and 21 other members have followed suit. The development has effectively transformed the Delta State House of Assembly to a one-party legislature, as the remaining 7 members were originally elected on the ticket of the APC. The Speaker stated during the resumption of plenary after the Easter break that the decision was the result of extensive consultations with their constituents and political leaders throughout the state. He noted that the move aligned with Section 109 of the 1999 Constitution as amended. Meanwhile, 6 members of the House of Representatives from Delta State have also defected from the People's Democratic Party to the All Progressive Congress. The notices of defection were read by the Speaker of the House, Tajuddin Abbas, during plenary on Tuesday. Meanwhile, Tuesday's resumed trial of the leader of the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu, came with some drama as the presiding judge barred Kanu's sister-in-law from 3 sittings. The woman, identified as Favor Kanu, was accused of recording court processes during a previous sitting and allegedly publishing same online. Justice James Omotosho recounted how he had previously warned her without citing her for contempt. Some states in northern Nigeria established the Hisbah to enforce Sharia law and uphold Islamic principles. But the body has in recent times been accused of abuses, including physical assaults and invasions of privacy. In Katsina State, the Hisbah has faced criticism for its enforcement methods, which some describe as oppressive and violent. In this report, Rukaya Jibia highlights the experiences of some of the victims of Hisbah's alleged high-handedness.
In northwest Nigeria, is widely known for its deep-rooted heritage and strong adherence to Islamic principles. However, beneath this religious commitment lies a troubling reality. The body, established by the state government to enforce strict adherence to Islamic laws, is now perceived by many as oppressing individuals under the guise of enforcing religion. Many residents have reported different experiences. There have been numerous stories of individuals being physically assaulted by Hisbah members for minor infractions, such as not wearing appropriate clothing, playing music, or going out late at night.
He insulted my mother. I said, don't insult my mother again. You don't know who she is, you don't know her. If I insult your mother again, what would you do? I said, don't insult my mother again. He still repeated the same thing. I retaliated. I insulted him back. He said, I'll come and slap you. I said, come and slap me, since I did something wrong. Just from behind, I received a slap, a very sound slap from behind. I reacted. I was like, to even turn and see who slapped me. The next thing, beating from everywhere that I attempted to slap the OC.
Every man of the Hisbah that was there, he was beating her. I started shouting, "Sis, yaya tachi, kakko bige ta karuwa ce. That was the only thing they were saying. She was a prostitute, she was a prostitute. They were saying she was a prostitute. I was saying she's not a prostitute, she's my sister. They continue beating her. For me, I was angry, yes, I was upset, but I was more ashamed than angry. I couldn't defend my sister. Why she was humiliated and called names that she would never be associated with.
For the Hisbah commander, the body is a moral force responsible for upholding Islamic laws and promoting proper behavior in the community.
Amma dukkanin abin da ke ga Hisbah ta ce kar a yi, imma dai Allah madaukakin sarki ne hana wannan abin a cikin Alkur'ani mai girma, wanda duk musulmi ya kamata ya san wannan. Kuma ya ma sani. Daga ciki akwai tasir da kike magana, daga ciki akwai kide-kide wanda Allah ta'ala ya ce wa sha'ara'u yattabi'uhum al-ghawun. Nasoshi ga sunan daban-daban a cikin Alkur'ani. Manzon Allah a nusus na hadithai ya hana shigar banza, yawon banza da sauran abubuwan da addinin musulunci ya hana wanda kowa ya sani.
But in what appears to be a controversial stance, the Hisbah commander claims that it is permissible in Islam to beat a woman as a means of enforcing morality.
Al'amarin tarbiyya dole sai an yi bugu. Wannan shine ka'idar tarbiyya.
These atrocious acts allegedly perpetrated by the Hisbah are widely known, yet many victims remain silent. I spoke with several other individuals who recounted being beaten mercilessly, but refused to speak on camera due to fear and chose to suffer in silence. Their stories paint a chilling picture of the terror that underpins the Hisbah enforcement. In a city that takes pride in its Islamic identity, many residents now find themselves caught between the pursuit of faith and the quest for freedom.
The way they work is barbaric. From the experiences of my daughters, it is barbaric because there is no law on earth that says you can brutalize a fellow human being, let alone a woman. Are there not female Hisbah officers that could have handled her case? She was dragged like a dog by 4 men. Her cap is lost. There was no veil on her, and they claim she was there with an indecent dressing. But what is so decent about how they treated her? So as far as I'm concerned, Hisbah is barbaric. Hisbah is inhuman.
Some believe that the Hisbah is not just about enforcing moral values, but also a way for the government to silence those who disagree with its policies.
Da sa hannun gwamnati suka min waye suka koro mu suka ce mu taho gida za a bada su beli. Karshe kawai sai dai muka ji labarin an kai su gidan yari.
Sun kai shekara nawa?
Duka cikin su yaro ɗaya ne wanda ya shekara 22. Duk sauran daga mai 18 sai mai 17.
Wanda suke zuwa makaranta?
Dukkan su makaranta suke yi. Dukkan su makaranta suke yi. Kin ga an kware mu an kwari yaran mu. Saboda an zalunce mu an zalunci bayan Allah. Saboda abin da aka yi mamu domin Allah mu ba a gyara mu ba. Kuma an yi mamu zalunci.
Resulting from this is a growing distrust between the Hisba and the residents, which leaves them feeling trapped in a cycle of fear and oppression.
sai wani duke da sai dai ciro barin ya tafiya ba inda ita ya za a iya samun matsala wani su kamar ka kawai sai na haƙura na tsaya dodi inda duke da rike ban zaɓi kowa ba tankan kowa ba ni dai na tsaya domin na kare duke na abin sai ya fi ƙarfi na fara ƙoƙarin cewa yunƙurin in tattara kayana in kwashe na fara zuba wasu akwai.
Because I want it for one reason, let there be justice for her, and then it should serve as a deterrent because I want the perpetrators to be prosecuted and brought to book.
The questions are the Hisba's practices truly reflective of the values of the community, or are they being manipulated by the government to serve a political agenda? As the Hisba continues to impose strict measures in the name of moral guidance, the lines between religious enforcement and government control remains blurry. In Katsina, for News Central, Rukaiya Jibiya.
Let's get some perspective on this story. We're joined now by constitutional lawyer Abba Hikima. We'll be joined subsequently by the mother of the lady that was assaulted. Abba, thank you very much for joining us. I'm actually unsure where to start, but perhaps you could start by letting our audience get the legal framework governing Hisba operations in Nigeria, particularly in the north.
And that was quite a distressing story, and reportage. Hisba Corps, or the Hisba police, as some people call them, actually has been established under various northern Nigerian state laws, for example, in Kano State, in Katsina State, in Zamfara State, which was even the first state to have enacted Hisba, Islamic Sharia laws, and also constitute the Hisba Corps, have been created constitutionally, even though there are a lot of debates. Some constitutional lawyers believe Hisba is unconstitutional, others believe it is constitutional, although this has been settled by the courts, as it has been upheld that really states portions to the relevant, for example, the legislative powers of the state's houses of assembly have the power to actually create the Hisba as an institution, and also under section 4(7) of the Constitution has also empowered the various states, to legislate on laws that are for good, for peace and good governance. Also, around section 38 of the Constitution of Nigeria has given Nigerians the right to profess their religion and also live by a certain code of religious codes. So these were the reliance of the courts, for example, in upholding the fact that states have the right to legislate on Sharia law and also empanel institutions like the Hisba. However, truly in a lot of states, Hisba has derailed from their mandate, and in a lot of times they have overstepped their boundaries, not only in Katsina State, in various states. As a practicing lawyer, I have found myself, in cases where Hisba has transgressed, into sometimes even taking people's lives. For example, in Kano, there was a case in which Hisba Corps mercilessly beat a certain fellow, and that led to his death. The case was taken to court and all of that. In a lot of times, you would see them, enforcing laws. I mean, taking laws into their hands. For example, if they see people indecently dressed or keeping some hair, or maybe having some haircuts that is perceived as indecent, they will be the ones in a lot of times to be the prosecutors, to be the judges, and to be the executors, because they will arrest you, and on the streets, they will barb your hair, and this is very, very much unconstitutional, because even in the conventional system, and of course in Sharia law, I am positioned to speak about Sharia law because I have a university degree also in Sharia. So both in Sharia and Nigeria's constitution, that is the conventional system, there is nowhere that a Hizbah is to arrest you, to pass a judgment on you, and to be the person to execute that judgment. They have been severally found wanting in these areas. Even though in a lot of times they have been found to play vital roles in settling disputes, and doing a lot of things that can be really lauded, but really it is true that I'm not surprised of what I have seen in Sokoto from the reporters here. They have that tendency and they have been doing this, and I want to say that that is not a representation of the Sharia law, because there is nowhere in Sharia in which this is allowed, and also it is not a representation, of any legal system whatsoever in there.
I will come back to you. I have a lot of questions for you, but let's bring in the victim's mother now, Hawa Mohammed. Thank you for giving us your time. I'm quite sorry for what your daughter went through, but the lawyer has established for us that Hizbah ordinarily shouldn't be arresting or meting out punishment as such. Could you talk to us about the response since this story came out, perhaps from Hizbah authority or the government that you've had?
Excuse me, I didn't get your question.
Okay, has there been a response to the experience that your daughter suffered at the hands of Hizbah, either from Hizbah or the government?
It is quite traumatic and disheartening. To think that Katsina is basically an Islamic state, and the Hizbah is supposed to be a body that is to represent Islam, doing this kind of barbaric act. Besides, my daughter was not arrested. She was not arrested doing anything. She just heard rumors that one of her brothers and her cousin were arrested, so she went to confirm, and then she was brutalized. It is disheartening and traumatic. I have never, ever seen anything like that in my life.
Quite unfortunate, but I mean, since this event occurred, has there been a response from the Hizbah authority or government to the ordeal that your daughter was put through?
Well, initially it was the response of the Hizbah was a defamation of character by the GAC, that is Muhammadu Shitu, who is apparently the second in command to the Hizbah commander. The video or the interview he had with, I think, DCL was basically a defamation of character for my daughter and myself. And after that, the commander came out, he said the same thing, and it's very, very unfortunate, honestly speaking. Very unfortunate. Their response to what has happened to my daughter and her cousins, because there are two female cousins that were also assaulted, has just happened to be the worst.
Okay.
So I'm talking about 3 daughters.
Can you talk to us about the specific injuries or traumas that your daughter experienced during the assault and how this incident has impacted or affected your family?
Well, she has a fractured foot, which is in cast, and her left temporal membrane, that is the lining between the outer ear and the inner ear, has been ruptured. It is in the healing process. And naturally, it is traumatic for a girl to be assaulted, brutalized that way. A girl that is innocent. She has not done anything to deserve that. It is traumatic for us. We are still trying to cope with the trauma.
Let's come back to you, Abba, and just find out, is it permissible in Islam to beat a woman to enforce morality as is being claimed? And what are the options available for Hawa Mohammed's family to seek redress?
This is a very beautiful question, and it is important for Nigerians to listen, and also I think for Hizbah call of the various tests to also listen, because there appears to be a misunderstanding between what is criminal or what is a crime and what is immoral. Yes, if you look at the laws establishing Hizbah in the various states, because these laws are almost the same across the states, you would see that the Hizbah has the duty and is enjoined, to encourage doing that which is good. And it also encourage or has the mandate, to discourage immorality and that which is generally bad. But there is a difference between an immoral act and a crime. While Hizbah has the mandate, for example, to arrest people for committing crimes and to help the conventional law enforcement agents in curtailing crimes, they do not have the power to enforce immoral acts, a supposed immoral act which does not amount to crime. But this is what they have been doing. For example, there is no law anywhere in Nigeria, whether in Islamic law or in the conventional legal system that we have, that criminalizes, for example, keeping a certain hairstyle. But you would see Hizbah, for example, enforcing that. Also, a certain dress may be provocative, but a lot of dresses that Hizbah is arresting people for is not actually revealing or provocative. It is perhaps considered by them to be indecent.
The important thing for us tonight, that there is no law, even in religion, that allows anyone to beat a woman. However, let me come back to you. What kind of support system have been put in place for your daughter and family since the incident, and are you looking to seek justice?
Is that question for me?
Yes, actually. I'm asking what kind of support system there is for your daughter and if your family will be looking to take the legal route.
Well, fortunately for her, we have a strong family structure. So she has a strong family support. Every member of my immediate and extended family is rooting for us. And we intend to seek redress from the courts. We want justice for her.
We hope you get that. Thank you so much for giving us your time and sharing this unfortunate experience with us. Abba Hikima, thank you as well for always bringing insight to the conversation. Thank you for staying with us. You're watching tonight on News Central. A reminder of our top stories. Senate constitutes 18-man committee to oversee activities of Rivers Sole Administrator Ibokete Ibas. Delta State Governor Monday Oberewari meets President Tinubu for the first time since his defection to the ruling APC. U.S. President Donald Trump hosts Canadian Prime Minister at the White House amid tariff tensions and annexation threats. The Middle Belt region of Nigeria has been plagued by violence and insecurity, partly due to illegal mining activities. The area is rich in mineral deposits, including gold, copper, and lithium, making it a hub for artisanal and small-scale mining. However, the lack of effective regulation and oversight has led to the proliferation of illegal mining, which has become intricately linked with banditry and violent conflicts. More than 5,000 people have been killed in Zamfara state alone in the past 5 years due to violence related to illegal mining, and thousands of people have been displaced, with many living in internally displaced persons IDP camps. The conflict has caused significant economic damage, stalling economic growth and development in the region. The Nigerian government has taken steps to address the issue, including imposing a ban on artisanal gold mining in Zamfara state and deploying soldiers to enforce the ban. However, these efforts have yielded little result. Joining me to discuss this is a security analyst and former Attorney General of Kaduna State, Mark Jacob. Thank you for joining us. Nigeria's Middle Belt has been steeped in seasonal, some have said, continuous bloodletting over what was initially framed as a conflict between herders and farmers. But it appears the real crisis does stretch all the way to Zamfara for the soul of the mineral belt. How true is this?
Let me thank you once again for helping us to correct the narrative that there was anything like herders-farmers conflict. There was nothing like that. Rather, we have seen repeatedly that there is a desperate move intentionally by groups that are interested in taking land or in accessing rich resources that are embedded in the land. We have seen this from the plateau, we have seen this in southern Kaduna, we have seen this in Nasarawa State, even up to Benue State, where thousands have lost their lives. And people have been chased off the land while those who do the chasing occupy the land. There is no doubt at all that in the Middle Belt region, you have a lot of deposits of natural resources that have not been tapped. We have a lot of illegal mining going on. We have a lot of mining also that you can say is legal because the federal government through the Ministry of Industries is giving licenses to strange people to walk into communities, ravage the land without any assessment on whatever the impact will be, without arrangement on how the communities or environment is going to be sustained. The natural habitat is being displaced and abused. People from all over the world are in these parts of the country where attacks are taking place, people are being killed, houses are being burnt, largely to scare away those who are natural inhabitants and owners of the land. In Kaduna State, where I come from, in the area that was ravaged, particularly between 2016, 2017, 2018, we know that within the Kanonkong axis, there are huge deposits of mineral resources. And when the attacks heightened, it was strange, but then it was very clear that people were interested in the huge mineral deposits within that environment. And as I speak to you today, we have hundreds of miners in that environment who are getting rich, who are becoming millionaires without paying much or anything to the federal government.
What do you respond? We have very limited time for this conversation, Sam. I'm sorry to interject, but how do you respond to allegations that foreign powers arm and sponsor some of these killings, and they seem to do this unhindered? They have access and they can mine illegally for these minerals. Is this true, and how can this even succeed in a place that have governance and government and security agencies in place?
Well, nobody needs to do any deep research to come to this conclusion, because even a few weeks ago when the video was making the rounds of a Chinese couple distributing money to mobile policemen in Kaduna State, that is evidence enough to show you that foreign nationals are all over the place in the Middle Belt, in Nasarawa State, in Benue State, in Plateau State. You find Chinese and other nationals well protected by Nigerian security, moving around in all the areas, particularly the areas that are being attacked. The foreigners are moving happily and safely without anybody kidnapping or
it is sad that we are time pressed, but for a crisis that has been on for decades, what would be your suggestions for us to begin to navigate our way out of it?
Well, the crisis, as you call it, is no longer a crisis. It's organized crime, protected and supported by Nigerians, because you find Nigerian elements, Nigerian security, Nigerian officials of government being complicit in whatever is happening. They are complicit, I mean. So it is easy to stop these things if the Nigerian collaborators are stopped. But you cannot, in good faith, explain how foreign nationals are free to move around where locals are being chased away, where locals are having their homes burnt, where the natives, the owners, the indigenous people in this community are not allowed to stay there.
That's a very strong statement, where foreigners are allowed to go around and people who should be safe feel insecure. I'm afraid we'll have to leave the conversation here for now. Thank you for giving us your time.
Thanks.
We're on a short break. The news continues after. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney held highly anticipated talks with Donald Trump at the White House on Tuesday amid tensions over the U.S. president's tariffs and threats of annexation. Trump slammed Canada on Truth Social for effectively freeloading off the United States just minutes before greeting the recently re-elected Carney outside the West Wing. Trump, during the meeting, said that Canada joining the U.S. as a 51st state would be a wonderful marriage. Carney, in response, told the U.S. president that Canada is not for sale and will not be for sale ever. Joining me to discuss this are field engineer Alexander Von Rugen and managing principal EOK Consults Hanet Singh. Thank you both for giving us your time. Let me start with you, Hanet. What potential outcomes did you foresee from the U.S.-Canada trade negotiations, and how could they impact bilateral trade relations?
I think the impact could be massive, as President Trump has indicated his preference to renegotiate the agreement. There's obviously the threats of sovereignty for Canada to stay a nation. Obviously, he's made his remarks about Canada being the 51st state, and he re-emphasized on those remarks today. But broadly speaking, any negotiation is a good negotiation at this point if it leads to at least a trade deal. The biggest thing which most manufacturers and businesses across the border and in Canada would be looking for would be some kind of relief from the tariffs. There could be sector-specific deals which could happen. So you could have auto sector or any other critical sector like energy get some kind of respite, or you could basically look at a NAFTA 3.0, a complete renegotiation of the trade deal between the United States, Canada, and Mexico.
All right, Alexander, let me come to you and just ask your thoughts on what played out today at the meeting between Trump and Carney and the play of words. Join us. No, we're not for sale. Okay, we'll just stay with you then, Hanet. Just take on the question.
So I think the play of words, the play of words were very interesting today. So you saw Trump respect Mark Carney a little bit, and he mentioned that he's a good man and he won the election. So it started off pretty positive, and you saw that Mark Carney also returned the favor by praising the president and his regime as transformative in nature. But at the same time, when Mark Carney mentioned about Canada never being for sale, you saw how Trump responded by saying never say never. So that was a jab, and I believe and I hope that most Canadians hope that this is more symbolism, and there is no reality to that claim in terms of trying to annex Canada or its economic sovereignty. So I hope it's more just play of words, try to get a better deal, as Trump talks about in The Art of Deal, basically his book and his life story. But there was definitely some interesting exchanges between the Prime Minister and the President of the U.S.
Considering all the rhetorics before the elections, how important was this meeting in the bigger diplomatic relations?
I think very important. This meeting should potentially, in the best case scenario, this should not be a one-off meeting. This should lead to multiple rounds of discussions and, if required, negotiations on sector-specific tariffs or the entire NAFTA, the USMCA agreement. But the hope from the Canadian side would be that this leads to a positive start of relationship. This is a new government in place. Yes, it's the same party which was in power for almost 10 years, but at the same time, this is a new prime minister and it signals a new approach. So the hope Canadians would have is that this leads to a fresh round of discussion and negotiation with the American counterparts, which can then lead to some relief. Because honestly, what every business right now requires is some kind of stability and some kind of predictability in terms of what's going to happen with the tariffs and what's going to be the relationship with the United States, our biggest trading partner.
How can U.S. and Canada build trust in the aftermath of these tensions, given the differing views on trade and sovereignty?
It's going to be a challenge, but I think every challenge comes with an opportunity. The fact that, as I mentioned, this is a new government led by a new leader, there is a hope that this leads to transparent negotiation. I think being upfront about the fact that we have to respect each other, we have to respect the border, we have to respect the sovereignty of a different nation. That should be step one. Step two should be that we need to put our best interest forward. The two countries have had a long-standing relationship, and this relationship has led us to the prosperity we have. This is the largest trading bloc in the free world, and to make sure that this continues and ensures prosperity for all of us across the border would depend on the negotiation. So I think having that independence, having that transparency in thought would be a starting point. At the same time, both countries would want to keep their interest up front in terms of what they expect from the negotiation. But the fact that this meeting started off well and it did not turn into any kind of press disaster so far, I think it's a very positive step.
Hannah, thank you very much for obliging us.
Thank you for having me.
We did lost connection with Alexander Von Rugen, who is a field engineer earlier introduced for that conversation. India's armed forces have hit 9 sites in Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir, although no Pakistani military facilities have been targeted. Local sources and media reports that multiple loud explosions were heard in the mountains around the city of Muzaffarabad, capital of Pakistani Kashmir, as well as in 2 other places in the region. After the explosions, Muzaffarabad's power was also blacked out. A spokesman for Pakistan's military told broadcaster ARY that India had attacked Pakistan with missiles in 3 places and that Pakistan would respond. Lekon joins us now for some business update. Lekon, what are we looking at today?
All right, I'll just start with the aviation minister, Nigeria's aviation minister, that is actually not resting on his oars in expanding routes in and out of Nigeria. He's currently in Brazil and is trying to consolidate on that. I'll tell you more in a bit. Festus Keyamo, Nigeria's Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development, met with Embraer in Brazil to seek vital support for Nigerian airlines. Accompanied by Chris Najomo, the Director General of the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority, and the local airline representatives, Keyamo's visit focused on establishing a direct air route between Nigeria and South America. Today, Moshood, the minister's media advisor, highlighted a key meeting at Embraer's headquarters to explore enhanced access to modern aircraft and favorable leasing options. Now, Keyamo emphasized the importance of partnerships for growth in Nigeria's aviation sector. The visits will continue in Brasilia, where Keyamo will meet with Brazilian Minister Silvio Costa Filho to review the bilateral air services agreement, promoting closer ties and direct flights between the 2 countries. Tantalite prices in Europe soared to 2-year highs last week, reaching between $100 and $105 per pound due to supply disruptions linked to ongoing tensions in the Democratic Republic of Congo, the leading global producer. This marks a 25% increase since unrest began in January, and the conflict has made sourcing legitimate tantalite challenging, with many Western smelters avoiding DRC and Rwanda due to the violence from the M23 rebels. Instead, they are turning to Burundi, Mozambique, Ethiopia, which offer limited supplies at higher prices. The DRC and Rwanda accounted for over 58% of global tantalum production in 2024, highlighting the impact of the ongoing crisis. And now to the equities market. Trading activities in the market closed positive at the end of today. And we start with the NGX All-Share Index, which increased 108,361.10, recording 1.56% growth and indicating a year-to-date return of 2.27%. Now, looking at market capitalization, increased by 1.045 trillion naira to 68.105 trillion naira. However, the market turnout decreased to 13.899 billion naira from 18.934 billion naira. And I'm looking at the charts for the top gainers. Nestle actually topped the gainers list with 10%, while Guinea Insurance declined by 8.7% to lead the losers chart. Axis Corp recorded the highest volume, while GTCO recorded the highest value for the day. We end with sectoral performance, even as we have it right there on the screen, where we see that the banking industry continues to show positive growth, 1.60% in increase as it gains stability. However, the insurance sector, declined by 1.61%. The oil and gas sector outperformed others with a significant 2.97%, driven by favorable market conditions. Consumer goods also experienced some sort of rise or growth, as we see 1.75%, looking at the reflecting steady demand that we tracked. Meanwhile, the industry goods sector saw minimum movement with a marginal increase of just 0.08%. Overall, strong bargain hunting sentiment continues to sustain market performance as the bullish run persists. And that's it on business news. To stay with us, we'll bring you sports in a bit.
We hear fan favorite Ahmed Musa is set to return to the Super Eagles. Udoka is here with all the details. How true is this one, Udoka?
Well, very true. Ahmed Musa has been out of the Super Eagles team for quite a while now, and of course is on the verge of rejoining the team at the Unity Cup, which will be going down in the UK, and I'm sure we'll all look forward to that one. We'll be giving you more updates in a bit. Now, Ahmed Musa is set to return to the Super Eagles of Nigeria as he leads the team at the upcoming Unity Cup tournament in the United Kingdom from the 26th to the 31st of May. The exhibition event, holding at Brentford's G-Tech Community Stadium, will feature Nigeria, Ghana, Jamaica, and Trinidad and Tobago. According to the official X handle of Kano Pillars, the club confirmed Musa's inclusion in the national team for the tournament. Musa, who has scored 8 goals and recorded 2 assists for Kano Pillars this season, last played for the Super Eagles of Nigeria in a pre-AFCON friendly in January 2024. Although he was part of the AFCON squad in Ivory Coast, he did not feature in any game. With many foreign-based players unavailable, the squad is expected to consist largely of home-based talents. Nigeria will face Ghana in their opening match on the 28th of May. Moving on to the National Sports Festival, Governor of Delta State, Sheriff Aborwori, has affirmed that the arrival of the Unity Touch for the 22nd National Sports Festival, tagged Gateway Games Ogun 2024 in Delta, is a powerful endorsement of his administration's belief in sports as a catalyst for youth empowerment, national unity, and sustainable development. Receiving the Unity Touch at the Government House in Asaba, represented by his deputy, Sir Monday Onyeme, the governor remarked that the values championed by the National Sports Festival is about inspiring hope, promoting unity, and driving progress across all sectors. He highlighted Delta State's proud legacy in sports. Martin Delta has claimed victory in 8 of the last 10 editions of the National Sports Festival since Bauchi 2000, cementing its status as Nigeria's undisputed sporting powerhouse. Now, the Benue State House of Assembly on Tuesday directed the Commissioner of Youth, Sports and Creativity, Tekimba Nkange, to within 7 days terminate the contract for the renovation of the Apako Stadium awarded to Monu Michel Sports Facility Construction for breach of contractual agreement. The House also directed the Attorney General of the state to immediately institute a legal action against the contractor with the view of recovering funds he collected from the state government without executing the project. Speaker Andona Dajo, who gave the ruling after hearing from the Commissioner of Youth, Sports and Creativity and the Attorney General of the state, lamented that for the fourth time, the contractor has refused to honor the invitations of the House and two of its standing committees, and announced that the Assembly would write to the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission to prosecute Moni Michel Sports Facility for defrauding the state. Now, the Nigeria Premier Football League, NPFL, is planning a colorful presentation ceremony for newly crowned champion Remo Stars. Danogumodede's side were crowned champions 2 weeks ago following a hard-fought 1-0 victory over Niger Tornadoes. The Sky Blue Stars will be awarded the title after their match day 37 encounter against Ikorodu City at the Remo Stars Stadium, Ikenne, on Sunday, the 11th of May. The NPFL also adjusted the kickoff time of the game. Now, Davidson Owumi, the Chief Operating Officer of the NPFL, said the slight adjustment is to ensure the safety of dignitaries and fans that will travel from Lagos to Ikenne for the trophy presentation ceremony that would hold at the end of the game. And of course, in the UEFA Champions League, just finished is a game between Barca and Inter Milan. And of course, after extra time, Inter Milan secured a 4-3 win over Barcelona, meaning that Inter Milan are the first team to make it to the finals of the new format UEFA Champions League this season. And that's all on Sports Updates. I am Udoka Njoku. Back to you, Felicity.
It was all about the Met Gala. It was the buzz. I expect some dandies going to be telling us that on the news.
Honestly, super excited about it. A lot of Nigerians did show up and show out, and it's one of the fashion industry's biggest events. So I'll tell you all the surprises right after this quick break. Nigerian stars lit up the red carpet at 2025 Met Gala in New York, dazzling under this year's theme, Superfine Tailoring Black Style, celebrating black culture and dandyism. Music heavyweights Thames, African giant Burna Boy, and Ira Star, alongside author Chimamanda Adichie, designer Swaggy Jerry, and actress Ayo Debiri, turned heads with bold, heritage-inspired looks. Now, Thames wowed in a modern Ashwebi design. Burna rocked a sharp Oswald Boateng suit by Ghanaian British designer, and Ira Star brought her Sabi Girl energy in this striking gown. And let's not forget Chimamanda, of course, who was a part of this year's committee, and she stormed in red. Swaggy Jerry, of course, also did his thing, and Ayo Debiri, who both, I must say, played tribute to African legacy through fashion. Now, Ayo Debiri is a multi-Emmy and Golden Globes winning actress, and of course, her father is from Edo. It was beautiful to see how she added the red beads that Edo is known for in her outfit. It was absolutely incredible. Now, the night wasn't just about style. It was a celebration of culture with Nigerian talent front and center on fashion's biggest stage. Now, K-pop stars Jennie and Lisa, from Blackpink made their debut. Iconic Diana Ross made a return to the Met Gala after 22 years. She's 81 years old. I mean, let's not even forget Rihanna, who made a baby number 3 announcement with her baby bump reveal. The looks were good, the fashion.
I couldn't escape them, but the one thing that stood out for me was that people were actually dressed this time. Yeah, I didn't see,
a lot of revealing.
Yes, it was covered. I mean, our ladies did me proud. Just look at Chimamanda.
I love it.
And look at Thames.
I know.
Oh my God.
Maybe it's the theme, the dandyism and the black culture. Maybe we're a little more covered.
Dandyism, I had to make that.
It just hurts me that I wasn't there live, but you know what? Watching every look.
Who knows?
Next year, I like the sound of that. Just yesterday, we brought you news about, the Didi's trial. Now, jury selection is underway in this federal sex trafficking trial of Sean Diddy Combs, drawing major attention to a lower Manhattan courtroom. Now, here's more details. I mean, just yesterday we talked about over 100 potential jurors, and now we're saying that potential jurors were asked about their views on sexual assault and whether they know Combs or any of nearly 200 celebrities who were named, including Michael B. Jordan, Kid Cudi, and even Kanye West. Prosecutors allege that Combs orchestrated even a 2011 car bombing targeting Kid Cudi and tied to his witness, of course, Cassie Ventura, his ex. Some jurors with potential conflicts were dismissed, while others remain under review. Combs faces 5 federal charges and could spend life in prison if convicted. He denies all claims, insisting any encounters were consensual. We're going to keep watching out for this one, I'm not going to lie, because it's one of those highly sensitive, it's sensational. Everyone wants to see what happens.
Anytime brings up any update on it, I just say, you know what, let the courts do their thing.
Let the court do their thing. You know what, justice will take its full course, and we're looking forward to that. Once there are more updates, of course, we'll bring it to you. That's Much Entertainment. I am Sam Dandy.
And that's the news tonight. But before we go, a quick reminder of our top stories. Senate constitutes a 18-man committee to oversee activities of Rivers Sole Administrator Ibok Ibas. Delta State Governor Sheriff Oborewari meets President Tinubu for the first time since his defection to the ruling APC. And off our shores, we brought you news that the U.S. President Donald Trump has hosted Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney at the White House amid tariff tensions and annexation threats. Send your eyewitness report to the number on your screen. We'd love to hear from you. Give us a follow on social media at News Central TV. You can watch us live on DSTV channel 422, GoTV channel 23, Star Times channel 274, Arrow TV, and on YouTube. As always, thank you very much for watching. Have a good night.